Hello, good day, everybody. I am Oli again, Matias, and today we have a very interesting and relevant topic to discuss. And our topic is about sustainable development goals. Before we begin, I would like to ask you a simple question. What comes into your mind when hearing the words sustainable development? Some of you may say it's about stable development or economic growth, or the others may say it's about conservation and preservation of resources. And you may also refer to it as an economic advancement or about continued growth. Actually, it's very hard to define, but thank you for your answers. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015, provides a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet, now and into the future. Sustainable development was first defined in 1987 by the Brundtland World Commission on Environment and Development as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. At its heart are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are an urgent call for action by all countries, developed and developing, in a global partnership. They recognize that ending poverty and other deprivations must go hand in hand with strategies that improve health, education, reduce inequality, and spur economic growth, all while tackling climate change and working to preserve our oceans and forests. Today, we are going to focus on goals 4 and 5. Goal number 4 is about quality education, and goal number 5 is about gender equality. Now, let's discuss about goal number 4. Ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and to promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. We have 7 outcome targets under goal number 4. 4.1 Universal primary and secondary education. By 2030, ensure that all girls and boys complete free, equitable, and quality primary and secondary education, leading to relevant and effective learning outcomes. Number 4.2 Early childhood development and universal pre-primary education. By 2030, ensure that all girls and boys have access to quality early childhood development care and pre-primary education so that they are ready for primary education. 4.3 Equal access to technical or vocational and higher education. By 2030, ensure equal access for all women and men, affordable and quality technical, vocational, and tertiary education, including university. 4.4 Relevant skills for decent work. By 2030, substantially increase the number of youth and adults who have relevant skills, including technical and vocational skills for employment. 4.5 Gender equality and inclusion. By 2030, eliminate gender disparities in education and ensure equal access to all levels of education and vocational training for the vulnerable, including persons with disabilities, indigenous people, and children in vulnerable situations. 4.6 Universal youth literacy. By 2030, ensure that all youth and a substantial portion of adults, both men and women, achieve literacy and numeracy. And lastly, 4.7 Education for sustainable development and global citizenship. By 2030, ensure that all learners acquire the knowledge and the skills needed to promote sustainable development, including, among others, through education for sustainable development and sustainable lifestyles, human rights, gender equality, promotion of a culture of peace and nonviolence, global citizenship, and appreciation of cultural diversity and of culture's contribution to sustainable development. Now, let us relate the 7 targets to the Philippine setting. 4.1 Universal and Primary Secondary Education, Republic Act 9155, or the Governance of Basic Education Act of 2001. It is hereby declared the policy of the state to protect and promote the right of all citizens to quality basic education and to make such education accessible for all by providing all Filipino children a free and compulsory education in the elementary level and free education in the high school level. Target 4.2 Early Childhood Development and Universal Pre-Primary Education. In the Philippines, we have the Republic Act 10410, which is called the Early Years Act of 2013. ECCD programs shall be financed through a combination of public and private funds. All public ECCD program providers shall prioritize children from 0 to 4 from families who are in greatest need and who can least afford private ECCD programs. 4.3 Equal access to technical, vocational, and higher education. In the Philippines, we have Republic Act number 7796, which is called the Technical Education and Skills Development Act of 1994 or TESDA Act 1994. This is to provide relevant, accessible, high quality and efficient technical education and skills development in support of the development of high quality Filipino middle level manpower responsive to and in accordance with the Philippine development goals and priorities. Target 4.4 Relevant skills for decent work. In the Philippines, we have Republic Act number 10533 or the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013. A functional basic education system that will develop productive and responsible citizens equipped with the essential competencies, skills, and values for both lifelong learning and employment. Under the Enhanced Basic Education Act, we have the K to 12, and right now we have senior high school, which provide different strands for learners, and it will also equip them for employment even after only completing high school level. 4.5 Gender Equality and Inclusion. In the Philippines, we have Republic Act number 11650 or instituting a policy of inclusion and services for learners with disabilities in support of Inclusive Education Act. It shall recognize, protect, and promote the rights of all learners with disabilities, including those who belong to the ethnic, religious, or linguistic minorities or persons of indigenous origin, to education compulsory and accessible to them by ensuring that no learner with disability is deprived of the right of access to an inclusive, equitable, and quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for them. We also have the special education in the Philippines, supporting the 1997 Magna Carta for Disabled Persons, the 1997 Department Order number 26 on the institutionalization of SPED programs in all schools established at least one special education center for children with special needs in all schools. Target 4.6 or the Universal Youth Literacy. In the Philippines, we have Republic Act number 11510 or it is also called the Alternative Learning System Act, a promise to a better future. And lastly, Target 4.7 Education for Sustainable Development and Global Citizenship. UNESCO has been the lead United Nations agency on education for sustainable development since the United Nations Decade of Education in 2005 to 2014. Education for Sustainable Development, or what we call ESD, is widely recognized as an integral element of Agenda 2030, Sustainable Development Goal 4, or SDG 4, and a key enabler of all the other SDGs. ESD is a well established framework to shift to a sustainable future. It empowers learners with knowledge, skills, and values and attitude to make informed decisions and to take responsible actions for environmental integrity, economic viability, and a just society. UNESCO's work on ESG focuses on five main areas, namely advancing policy, transforming learning environments, building capacities of educators, empowering and mobilizing youth, and accelerating local level action. Let us now hear about the implications of these goals and targets to early childhood education. Discussions and developments in the wider field of education for sustainable development, it is said that early childhood education provides the foundation for lifelong learning within education for sustainability. It is in the early years that children have the greatest capacity to learn. It is also in early childhood that the foundations of many of our fundamental attitudes and values are first put into place. Children should also be recognized as potential agents for change. The citizen group with the greatest stake in achieving sustainability are the children. In fact, the younger the child, the greater their stake in the future is. Along with the 7 targets outcome of goal number 4, we also have 3 means of implementation. 4.A, effective learning environments. Build and upgrade education facilities that are child, disability, and gender sensitive and provide non-violent, inclusive, and effective learning environment for all. B. Scholarships. By 2020, substantially expand globally the number of scholarships available to developing countries, list developed countries, small island developing states, and African countries for enrollment in higher education, including vocational training and information and communications technology, engineering, scientific programs, and developed countries and other developing countries. C. Teachers and educators. By 2030, substantially increase the supply of qualified teachers, including through international cooperation for teacher training in developing countries, especially the least developed countries and small island developing states. Let me relate the 3 means of implementation to the Philippine setting. The 1983 Act of Enhanced the mobility of disabled persons by requiring certain buildings, institutions, establishments, and public utilities to install facilities and other devices sets specific provisions to ensure access to school to some specific groups of people with disabilities. In terms of curriculum, we have the 2009 Philippine Magna Carta for Women calls for a revision of educational materials and curricula to avoid gender stereotypes and images and to ensure that gender-sensitive language is used. According to the 2013 Enhanced Basic Education Act, the national basic education curriculum must be learner-centered, inclusive, and developmentally appropriate, culturally sensitive, consistent with the principles of the framework of MTB-MLE, and flexible in order to allow schools to localize and indigenize according to the context. In terms of learning materials, we have the indigenization of learning materials. Appropriate learning materials have been prepared to support the indigenous people curriculum, open to consultation, and translated into 14 different languages. In terms of scholarships, Completion and survival rates in basic education have been significantly increasing from 2011 to 2017, while dropout rates have continuously declined in the same period. And reports show that while access to higher education has improved due to the passage of the Universal Access to Quality of Tertiary Education Act in 2017, the quality of tertiary and technical vocational education must be also ensured. In third implementation, let's relate it to the Philippine setting. A training for special education teachers has been organized by the Department of Education's Bureau of Elementary Education. Teacher training institutions must include special education courses at the undergraduate and graduate levels and provide further learning opportunities for qualified special education teachers through scholarship programs. Now, let us move on to goal number 5, which is about gender equality. Gender inequalities are still deeply rooted in every society. Women suffer from lack of access to decent work, and face occupational segregation and gender wage gaps. In many situations, they are denied to access to basic education and healthcare and are victims of violence and discrimination. They are also underrepresented in political and economic decision making processes. Goal number 5, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. Under this goal, we have 6 targets. Number 1, end discrimination against all women and girls. Number 2, eliminate violence against all women and girls. Number 3, eliminate all harmful practices such as child marriage. Number 4, recognize and value unpaid care and domestic work. Number 5, ensure women's participation and leadership in decision making. And number 6, ensure universal access to sexual and reproductive health and rights. It is said that the first year are the most important years of a child's life. It is the period when the 90% of a child's brain is built and when the child learns social and emotional, cognitive, and language skills. This is also the period when children learn the gender norms, attitudes, and expectations of their community and society. Meaning that by the time they reach primary schools, girls and boys may already have a clear idea of how they are expected to behave, how they are valued, and what their future role will be. That is why early childhood development matters for children's rights and for gender equality. In many countries and communities, right from the earliest age, boys are prepared for the future role as provider and protector, and girls as mothers and caregivers. Learning these rules and expectations in terms of behaviors and roles can be limiting for all children, but is likely to be particularly limiting for girls. Gender inequality is one important root cause of children's poor development in early years. Gender discrimination together with some preference mean that young girls receive less nutrition, opportunities to play, and access early learning than young boys. Gender inequality and discrimination underpin women's low status, their poor physical and mental health, and their limited opportunities to make choices for themselves and their children. Children have fewer chances of surviving and thriving during early childhood if there is gender inequality and discrimination. Look closely at the cycle. Key features of gender equality in ECD or in early childhood development. First, ensuring girls and boys are provided with equal care and learning opportunities by building the capacity of the adults that care for and teach children, including through gender responsive pedagogy for educators. Ensuring that girls and boys have equal access to play and learning materials, and play does not reinforce limiting gender norms and stereotypes. Adapting parenting programs for parents, caregivers, female and male, to include reflection on how children learn about gender from early childhood and the importance of providing girls and boys equal care and opportunities to develop and thrive. Promoting men's engagement in the nurturing care of their children and shared childcare and decision making with their female partner. Ensuring that ECD programs support and promote women's rights to health, freedom from violence, and agency. Ensuring that nurturing care, social, and behavior change communications reflect equal value of potential girls and boys and the importance of shared caregiving and decision-making responsibilities between women and men. Lastly, ensuring that social protection systems and supports for young children and their families do not reinforce gender norms around care work and provide for maternity and paternity leave and child care. Now let us relate the goal number 5 to the Philippine setting. In Philippines, we have Republic Act 9710, which is also called the Magna Carta of Women. The Magna Carta of Women is a comprehensive women's human rights law that seeks to eliminate discrimination against women by recognizing, protecting, fulfilling, and promoting the rights of Filipino women, especially those in the marginalized sector. We also have the GEWE, or what we call Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment. GWE from 2019 to 2025 is the midterm plan of the government on the implementation of initiatives towards the achievement of gender equality and women empowerment. And now we also have the VAW, or the Violence Against Women Desk Functional. A VAW desk is defined as a physical facility that addresses VAW cases in a manner that is gender sensitive. The VAW desk should be present in each barangay since they are the first responders to call for help by a victim. We have a long way to go for sustainable development. We need a lot of programs and policies and a lot of action and initiatives to make this happen. We are currently in a situation where only a small portion of the international community of early childhood educators are fully aware of the overall objectives and scopes of the Sustainable Development Goals. It is time to share the word. Your turn to help starts now. So that's all for today. I would like to thank you for listening to my presentation, and I hope we start the Sustainable Development Awareness today. Thank you and good day, everybody.